From torching Marvel in a race to manifest the first superhero in comic history, to getting away with writing 11 different Batmen. Here's why DC is better than Marvel. Yeah, Marvel may have the first Avengers, but do they have the very first superheroes in comic books? Yep, here's something that will cause a lot of MCU fans to Hulk out. But facts are facts. According to Guinness World Records, the Phantom might be the first superhero ever. But DC fired back and wrote arguably the greatest superhero ever just 2 years later. Know who I'm talking about? Is it a bird? Is it a plane? He may not be the first, but Superman holds the record for the first superhero ever with superpowers. Writers Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster breathed life into the Kryptonian, where he first appeared in Action Comics #1, published by DC in 1936. The rest, you can say, was history. Marvel was pretty late to the party, debuting their first issue featuring the Human Torch in late 1939. But by then, there was already another DC character stealing their thunder. Artist Bob Kane thought, what would a cross between Sherlock Holmes and Zorro look like? And from the shadows rising into Detective Comics #27, we saw Batman for the very first time. But what about the ladies, you ask? Well, slinging her lasso of truth came in Wonder Woman, only falling short of Jungle Comics' Phantoma. But even though our Justice League Big Three weren't technically the first ones in the superhero scene, beating Marvel to the race was enough of a W for them. Yeah, you can argue that it's not about being first, but do they have better female characters? Let's be honest, when you're finally introducing your little daughter to a superhero, the first name that pops into your head isn't Captain Marvel or Gamora. I mean, come on. When you know your child is lying, you teach them how powerful the lasso of truth is with Wonder Woman. Marvel fans can try to hold their own with the men, but when you have an ensemble featuring Black Canary, Starfire, Raven, Batgirl, Power Girl, and even Harley Quinn, it's game over. The biggest flaw in this part of the debate that makes them lose miserably to DC is Carol Danvers herself. Marvel has been trying oh so hard over the years to try and build Captain Marvel as their answer to Wonder Woman. But all they end up doing is creating a laughable mismatch of forced feminism. And this is not the only time Marvel has tried to copy DC characters. I mean, take Felicia Hardy or Black Cat, for example. So you're telling me this isn't a Catwoman ripoff? The unhealthy infatuation with the male superhero, the raunchy attire, and that's just scratching the surface. What's truly sad is that with each passing year, Marvel tries to hypersexualize her even more to get the audience's attention. And when they almost get it right, like they did with Susan Storm, they just seem to lose the plot. Why is a woman with one of the most overpowered abilities, invisibility, constantly being portrayed as the damsel in a distressing relationship with Reed Richards? DC knows how to let their ladies be their own person, whether it's the emancipation of Harley Quinn or a rebellious Batgirl taking on the Knight of Gotham himself to have her way. And oh, with the villains, it's not even close. DC doesn't need validation from the folks at Guinness to show that. They hold the record for writing the most compelling villains in comic book history. I mean, are you kidding me? Before we talk about the man you all are expecting, let's go through some of the most notable names in the Rogues Gallery first. We have the leader of the League of Assassins, Ra's al Ghul, Batman's master and deadly foe, Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke, a pioneer assassin and technical genius. And speaking of genius, you know Lex Luthor is next on the list. The man who can tame a Kryptonian god just by the power of his mind alone. But if you put all of DC's Rogues Gallery up against each other, you know who's going to have the last laugh? That's right, the Joker alone is enough of a reason why DC's villains are leagues ahead of Marvel. Where Marvel has their villains driven with conviction and a strong purpose, say having the entire population of the universe with a single snap, we have Darkseid to compete with that, just by the way. But what happens when a villain's only purpose is to wreak carnage? What's so menacingly beautiful about Joker's writing is that he mirrors Batman's Darkseid. And side by side, he is also a victim of society who'd laugh at him. You see? The level of complexity and the duality that DC invests in writing their villains cannot be trumped by Marvel's Kangs and Lokis. But when we're talking about the source material, history has shown why DC's comics are elite. For one, DC actually has the word comic in its name. This is benefiting because they are the only superhero franchise whose comics give the live-action and animated series a run for their money. We've seen some amazing artists and writers in the past. Tom King, Scott Snyder, and Frank Miller, to name just a few. From Jack Kirby's Fourth World to the iconic Kingdom Come by Jeff Johns, DC pushed the boundaries of how superhero movies can be portrayed. The Killing Joke was a rated-R graphic novel by Alan Moore that took a lot of risks. Whether it was an intimate scene with Batgirl and Batman, or even the controversial parallelization of Barbara Gordon, they really went there. Where Marvel relied on their celestial plots and multiverses. DC's experimentation with their material changed the game. And if you're still not convinced, remember, DC has the guts to go dark and gritty with their content, while Marvel is out here making amusement park movies. That's right, I accuse you, Marvel, of being the reason why Martin Scorsese dubbed the superhero genre that dreaded phrase. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't show my 10-year-old Scarlet Witch popping skulls just by clenching her fist, but the madness and sheer darkness that is portrayed in the DC is just another level. The city of Gotham is the prime example, encapsulating the worst of humans. Only DC has the nerve to beat their boy Wonder to death with a crowbar. Think that's pretty docile? How about the time the Green Lantern literally came out as a pedophile, having dated a fellow 13-year-old Lantern? And, oh, let's throw in the Joker, severing his face as a creepy message for Batman and the police. To make matters more not PG-13, did you know Frank Miller actually wrote a full-fledged Wonder Woman and Superman sex scene, which was downright deadly for humanity? Only a graphic Bruce Banner, Natasha Romanoff bedbreaker can compete with that. But more than that, DC's ability to write their legacy characters is the true flex. DC not only writes compelling origin stories for their characters, but they make sure they withstand the test of time. We've seen 5 different Robins in the past, each loved dearly by the fans. Wally West and Barry Allen sparked the debate for the best speedster, and 11 different Batmen who weren't Bruce Wayne. And here I am, still trying to make my peace with Falcon being the new Captain America. DC doesn't force their new protagonists to fill their predecessors' shoes, but lets them pave their own way and build a legacy. As for the superhero genre, DC is still writing its legacy in the superhero genre that shall be immortalized in our existence. So, that's exactly why DC is better than Marvel.